is Nigeria's first blog. I mean, she started Nigeria's first blog dedicated to moms and caregivers. She believes that parenting should be a mindful and collaborative process. As a parenting coach, our mission for creating a Lagos mom community is to be a family life and parenting resource for moms, parents, and caregivers. Yeti believes it takes an e-village, electronic village, to raise a child in the 21st century. She is the convener of the Lagos Mom Parenting Conference, which is an annual gathering of thousands of parents and experts discussing pertinent topics relating to parenting and family matters. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Economics and Mathematics from the University of Pittsburgh and an MBA in Strategy and Finance from the Yale School of Management, USA. And she has an executive degree in Digital Media Marketing from the University of Cambridge. She's a member of the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. Lagos Mom has grown organically online and is active on social media across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with over 100,000 followers. The brand has worked with several local and international brands. In 2021, Lagos Mom was selected as one of the winners of the African Online Safety Fund set up by Google.org. It's certainly an honor to have been selected as one of the 26 organizations across 9 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. The grant will go towards promoting online safety and digital well-being for parents, teachers, and children. Yeti is married to Afolabi Williams. I mean, her husband is a friend. I know him very well, amazing man, a very supportive Lagos dad, and they are blessed with children. Well, from the Institute of Family Engineering and Development, by the way, Yeti is one of our practitioners. She's an alumnus of the Institute of Family Engineering and Development. Please, let's go to the chat box and show some love as we make welcome Mama Mileko Yeti Williams of Lagos Mom. Hey, how are you, Yeti?
Hello, how are you, PF?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for inviting me. Happy to be back here, back home. Yeah. So, hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're tuning in from. So, shall I get started? Yeah, okay. So, in fact, I went back and forth on, can everybody hear me? First of all, let me be sure. Yes?
Yes,
okay.
we can hear you.
So when I started preparing for today, I initially was going to create, slides and take us through slides. But then I realized one thing, and it was very interesting when Dima mentioned it earlier, is that many times with a lot of this training, right, we can prepare a lot of material, but it's really about the action that we take afterwards. And particularly around family life practitioners, we know what we do. This group here, everybody here is an amazing practitioner. Everybody has a heart for family, has a heart for the future, has a heart for making sure that we are efficient in our lives, in our homes, in our businesses, and all of that. And we realize that when it comes to exceeding in work, our home has to be in order. Now, one of the things that has happened in the current age that we live in is that technology has come and it has disrupted everything, or it seems to have disrupted everything. And if we're coming at it from a place of fear, worry, overwhelm, guess what's going to happen? We're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to take action, and we're not going to move forward. So I thought we'll first start with just talking about what has changed in our world. What exactly is it that has changed? And what exactly is it that makes everybody currently feel very, very shaky, if you will, and very concerned? So Dima called me Yeti AI, and we laugh about it, but I've been a tech lover from many, many years ago, and it didn't start until I became a mother myself. And many years ago, about a decade ago now, I realized that technology was going to change our lives. I could not even have foreseen the way it has actually changed our lives. So what I want us to do is have a practical session, and I want to break it down into 3 parts. The first part is to talk about kind of education. Let's educate ourselves about what is happening in the world, what has changed. And then I want us to talk about empowering. Who are we empowering when we have this information? right? Exactly who is it that is supporting? Is empowering us as practitioners, is empowering us as parents, and is empowering our children to make the right decisions in the world that they live in. And then the third part of it is I want us to talk about empathy, right? If we don't come from a place of empathy to understand that, you know what, the world has changed, that doesn't mean that values need to disappear. That doesn't mean that, you know what, we don't have to think anymore about what it is we need to be thinking about, or we don't have to push our values, or because the world has changed, that means that my values should take a back seat. Absolutely not. The difference is that we need to be empathetic to the world that we live in, which means that children respond differently, which means that everybody responds differently. And if we're not speaking to our families, our children in the way that they understand, then guess what? We are not effective. So I will speak about those, and then I would really like for it to be very engaging, and we'll use the chat a lot because I want us to talk about how we can be more effective. And I think that's what will be very helpful for us to take away. Okay. So if we're together, I'm going to start with education. What has changed, right? What has changed is that nobody is the gatekeeper of knowledge anymore, right? Nobody is the gatekeeper of knowledge anymore. And in typical, if you will, African parenting style, what we are comfortable in is that we have the information, right? We are the ones that disseminate information to our children. The challenge then becomes when your children no longer need you for that information, what happens? If your children no more need you for information, what does that mean to you as a parent? Can anybody drop in the chat room what comes to your mind when I ask that question? If your children don't need you for information, how does it make you feel? All right, Kingsley is saying obsolete. Fantastic. Who else? Let me take the first three comments that come. Old school, irrelevant, outdated, trouble, mix of anxiety and faith is less important. Fantastic. That is the reality. And guess what? As a parent, if you feel unneeded, if you feel irrelevant, if you feel outdated, inadequate, extinct, tell me, how are you going to parent effectively? So we need to start from the place that, guess what? Knowledge ownership has shifted. We are not the disseminants of knowledge anymore. Our role is to be relevant and to help give our children the context that they need to the content that's available. Let me say that again. Our role now as parents, as leaders, as guides, is to be the one to connect our children to all the content that's out there in a way that's relevant and giving them the context. But guess what tends to happen? Who currently do you believe has the top position in giving our children that context in terms of all the content that they're seeing out there? This is engaging. Let's make it engaging. Who do you currently believe is giving children that context to the content that's out there? Social media, okay? Okay, let's keep going. Yes, social media, influencers, absolutely, screen, peers. Okay, somebody says you are the one. I'm glad to hear that, friends. The truth is that we've come into a world where our children are seeing content. In fact, they have content overload. The problem now is that because there's so much content coming at everybody, there's very little time being spent thinking. There's very little time spent assessing that information that's coming at us. So one of our roles as parents is actually to be educated so that we can raise critical thinkers. A critical thinker today is a child who sees content online and immediately is asking three questions. Who posted this? Why did they post this? And who is it benefiting? Did we get that? When we can raise a generation who thinks like that, then we're actually in a position where we are truly raising the family and children to be ready for the future that is already here. So we've already broken down the fact that knowledge is not something that's owned anymore by any parents, right? Children nowadays have the same information you have, I have. The second thing is, how do we stay relevant? We need to be there to give them the context, because without giving them the context, they will paint a picture of the world that you don't even know that they are painting. I tease some of my clients and say, you might be based in Lagos, in Ikeja, GRA. The child you are raising is more American than the child in America. Do we agree? A lot of our children now have virtual friends that, guess what? You will never have the privilege to meet. Let me say that again. A lot of our children's friends now, they have friends that are virtual that you will never have the privilege to meet. The reason I call it a privilege is, if we don't have a privilege to be in our children's lives, how are we supposed to shape their lives in a way that makes sense for them to thrive in this virtual world? So education means that we must be comfortable with the fact that things have changed. Parents no longer have the monopoly of knowledge. If your child wants to know something, guess what? It's a privilege that they're even asking you. They're even coming to you and bringing something to your attention. That means you've built a relationship that makes them want to talk to you. Now, the next thing is, why do we want to be educated? Why do we want to know about this stuff? Why is this important to be able to use technology in a way that is useful to my life, to my practice, to my family, to everything that you do? Is that when you are educated, when you are speaking the language of your children, your clients, guess what? You are then able to empower them. So let's pause again on that. If you are educated, your children can actually be empowered to use all of these platforms and tools in a way that serves them and is good for them. I see a comment here that says some children know more than parents these days. Absolutely. But let's remember that a child knowing content and having knowledge doesn't mean they know how to use it for good. Doesn't mean they know how to apply it and have the right context around it. But it's really important that we understand this, because if we have that good relationship, intentional parenting, authoritative versus authoritarian, good relationship, having the language, your children are more likely to be empowered users of all of these tools that are available than if they feel they have to figure it out themselves. When PF was reading my bio, there was something he read about, having won a grant. I've won a grant for 3 years from Google. And I reached out to them. And I'm bringing this here to start to switch it a little bit from parenting to what does this mean for us practically in our lives? I remember when I reached out to Google a few years ago and I said, you know what? We're raising families, children in a digital world. There's no point saying you're an effective parent if you have no clue about the world that your children are living in. You are not able to guide them. So I said, what can we do to bring online safety awareness to families, to parents, in a way that can be relevant and useful to the children they are raising? I had never seen anything like that. I can't say I had seen anybody that had necessarily gotten a grant or done it, but I realized that there was an intersection between family, between parenting, between being a parent coach, this tech that was changing the world. And they said, you know what, give us a brief. What do you have in mind? And I broke down a brief in terms of what I believed we needed to know. I go back to it. If parents are not educated, they don't know what's going on, you cannot prepare the children for the future. So they said, let's do a pilot. Let's go ahead and let's create this content and let us share it across social media so that we can actually get this information out to the families. But guess what helped? What helped wasn't just the fact that I had the content. What helped was the fact that I was able to talk about the importance of analytics. I was able to say, you know what, I know my audience. I know where they're coming from. I have data on them. I know the age group of their children. I know the challenges that they are facing. I didn't sell this data to them, but I use this as an place on which to make a relationship and to find a collaboration. Are we together? See that intersection? Yes, I can have a heart for family and, oh my God, we need to raise the next generation. But if we're not able to collaborate in a way that connects, then we're leaving a lot of value on the table. So I continued that conversation. I created it. I said how we'll do the analytics. I said who we're going to serve. I told them how I was going to do all this research. I think one of the public lectures I joined, or one of the things through the institute, was somebody coming to talk about surveys. I don't know if anybody else here joined that. He talked about how to create surveys in a way that is useful. So the kind of questions you ask is so important, because that is what gives you the insight, so that when you are presenting to people who are trying to understand where you're coming from, you have the confidence in addition to your passion. Thank you, Ewa. It is more than just being passionate. We can all be passionate, and that passion will be you and your computer, right? But in terms of having that knowledge, we're able to then create a product and a series that turned out into being something I was able to serve to parents, to educators, and to children, to talk about the importance of online safety, digital well-being, and digital citizenship. That is information that we can use to truly empower our children and our families to use digital for good. Okay, so we've talked about the 2 E's so far, right? Who remembers the first one? Being educated. The world has changed. Knowledge is everywhere. You don't own knowledge. Your children don't need you for content. What they need you for is context. The second one, we've talked about being able to empower our children. If we're not educated, we cannot empower children to make the right choices. How are we going to empower them? Providing resources. PF talks about it a lot. How are we creating content ourselves that is helping change the needle in the world that we are saying we want to impact? Some of it is going to come from us being able to collaborate with different people, coaches, tech companies. Dima mentioned at the beginning, have we created our own apps, our own solutions that's helping in the world, right? So that's for the empowerment. That's how it comes. Now, I want to give you another insight. 2 years ago, when I ran an online safety program for children, I did it in 2 groups. The first group was children between the ages of 8. When you say empower, do you mean empowering ourselves, empowering our children? Empowering the children, okay? We educate ourselves so we can empower our children to make the right choices online. I hope I'm clear. Yeah, okay. So I was saying that, so I did 2 classes 2 years ago, all in this direction of online safety, realizing the intersection, the importance. I talked about getting the grant from Google because I went to them with a prototype, which they thought, this is great. We haven't really seen this before. I was able to run that with them with a much smaller budget. Following that, the next 2 years, I got a bigger budget to continue on that particular content idea and delivering that curriculum around online safety for children, teachers, and parents. So I was saying that, so 2 years ago, I did a course, online safety boot camp is what I called it, for 2 groups of children between the ages of 8 and 12 and 13 and above. Now, for the children of 8 to 12, we spoke about empowerment. How are you using social media? How are you showing up online? Do you know the red flags if something goes on online that's affecting you? What is cyberbullying? What do you do if you are bullied? And guess what a few children said? They said, you know what, thank you for breaking it down, because now I realized that what I had been going through, I was being cyberbullied, but I didn't have a term for it. Thank you for highlighting it, because now I know that that's what cyberbullying is. It looks like. And I mentioned this so that we're very careful not to think that because a 2-year-old can use a device very well. We all know that, right? You give a 2-year-old a device, what happens? They just swipe. You are wondering, are they born ready? But that does not mean they know how to use it in the right way. So I said, wow. So now you know what cyberbullying is. Okay, so we discussed that. Now they knew what it was. They knew what it looked like. The next thing that shocked me was when some of the children said, but you know what, now that I even know what it is, or I have been cyberbullied, I didn't tell anybody, not my therapist, not my mother or father, not my teacher. And I said, why? I'm just curious. Does anybody want to drop a hint, any suggestion as to why a child might say that even though they were facing cyberbullying and they were victims of that. They didn't tell the adults in their life. Let me just give one or two, a few moments to see if anybody wants to drop. They want to belong. That's one suggestion. Who else? They didn't have the trust that they can help. They felt they won't understand, the adult won't understand because they felt they will be misunderstood, no relationship. They take their phone from them. All great ideas or suggestions. Some are quite close. In reality, the children said, I didn't believe my teacher, my parents, even the therapist I'm speaking to, I didn't believe they would even know what to do. I don't think they're even tech savvy enough to know what to do. That is very heavy, right? If a young child is taking decisions, adult-sized decisions, or suffering longer by themselves because they don't think that the adults in their life are educated enough or have used language enough to make them feel comfortable, that if I go to Odufa or Kingsley or Esther or whoever, if I go to my mom, I go to my teacher, they are going to know what to do. Yes, I can see a lot of the comments. That's serious. It is serious. So you have a group of children who potentially are living their lives virtually, and mom and dad have no clue what is happening. This is also very important for us to keep in mind, because that means as practitioners, there will be things happening now to potential families and clients. If we don't have the education, we don't know what the red flags are of online, the online space affecting a child's mental health, behaviors. They might be doing well in school. They might be getting A's in school, but they are being cyberbullied 24/7. It's quite serious and it's quite deep, because when we understand what we need to uncover, what we need to get into the basis of, then we know how we need to change a lot of the things that we are doing. Right? I have two hats on here as I'm speaking to you. One is as a parent, so I keep going to that because I know the conversations I'm having with my teenagers, because I have the language. I show up and I say things like, let's even see what's going on your For You page. Because I know what that language means, they're able to bring me into the conversation. First of all, you demystify the fact that you are a dinosaur. You show you are not a dinosaur because you use their language. AI, for example, is now in Snapchat. How many of us know that? AI has now been incorporated into Snapchat. So if your child is on Snapchat, yes, you might do screen time. Yes, you might say, turn it in at 9 p.m. Don't take it to your room. But what are they actually doing when they're on the platforms? We are not monitoring spirits, are we? So you can't be everywhere. But it's important you have that conversation with them, because now your child is not even just talking to human beings again. They are conversing with AI, who's answering them like it's a human being. So everything has shifted so much that we really have to keep in mind that it has shifted, but we don't need to be fearful. So we've talked about empowerment, right? When you're educated, you can what? Empower the children. You can tell them how to show up. You can teach them what to do when they get on. As practitioners, it means that we are changing some of our questions when we have a client, either as a family or as children. Now, a lot of families I talk to and coaching for, there's always a lot of trepidation around this screen time. Oh, technology, I don't know what to do. When you ask the parents themselves, what is your digital well-being plan? They don't have one. They don't have one. And what do children do? Do children do what we say or what we do? Hello, hi. Do they do what we say or what we do? Exactly. They do what we do. So if you are always on your screen, you are always on your device, but you are telling them, yeah, you shouldn't be on that. Do you know what they are labeling you as? Hypocrites. I'm not saying your rules should be the same. You are an adult. Yes, I absolutely accept that. However, if we're not helping our children to have control around their digital consumption, because we are not able to model that to them, our children are never going to learn that skill. And we're having unfortunate situations now where children are flunking out of university because they haven't learned how to manage their digital consumption. Are we together? So they get to university. There's no form, there's no house parent. There's nobody that's chasing you to say, have you studied? Have you done your work? It's affecting their mental health. It's affecting their ability to concentrate. It's affecting their ability to study without interruption. They have a notification popping up on their phone all the time. So what does that mean for all of us in terms of when we're even when we're a practitioner now and we're talking to families, we need to be asking these questions when we're doing our onboarding. What is really going on in your family? How do you consume content? What are your digital well-being plans as a family? So that can help you know what you're going to do when you're doing your interventions. Because there's no point doing all these great interventions for the physical part of things, but our children are spending more and more time online. That is where they are painting their picture of life. And parents are not even having a chance to understand what the online playing field looks like for the children and for the family. So technology has disrupted many things, absolutely, but we must come at it from a place of what does this mean for us? So we've talked education, we've talked empowerment. Now I want to talk about empathy. Families are going through a lot. Yeah, let's agree. There's all kinds of things going on. Our children are exposed to a depth of knowledge and worrying information that it is affecting their ability to believe in a better future. It is heavy, but it is the truth. If every time they turn on the news, they are seeing somebody is shooting somebody somewhere, right? Kidnap happening here and there. This is happening there and there, and they are seeing it 24/7. Once again, we don't own the knowledge. I remember when I realized a few years ago that the news my children were consuming was really bothersome. The things they will be telling me, and I as an adult, I am having goosebumps, I'm emotional, and they're just telling me, oh, did you hear this happen? Did you hear this person shot this person? Did you hear? Did you hear? Did you hear? And they're like, where did you see this now? Because in my head, I was thinking, are they going to CNN? Who wants to guess where they were getting all their news from? TikTok University. That's what I call it. TikTok University. So it's back to this. If a child is seeing content on a daily basis that they don't have the ability to manage, they don't have the tools, the intelligence to harness that properly, what is going to happen to their mental health if that is all they are seeing? They can't talk to mom and dad because maybe we're too busy, we don't understand, we will just blow it off, right? Or there's no time to really get into the details. Or how do you protect them to manage what they are seeing? So there's a lot going on. So that empathy for me, I found is critical, because when we are empathetic to ourselves as individuals, as adults, as spouses, as parents, as practitioners, it's easier to step into the shoes of the person in front of us who we're trying to support. So those are my three E's that I generally walk around: education, empowerment, and empathy, because with empathy, we can then truly make the changes that last. Okay, so we've talked about families, we've talked about what's changed, we've talked about how technology has affected a lot of things. I want us to move into something now that's really around how we are going to use all of this to truly change our practices. Because I would assume a lot of us here we're practitioners. So how are we using all of this information? It's one thing to be educated. It's one thing to know. It's one thing to say the family has changed. But the question is, how are we using this information truly to, number one, better our lives, to work smarter, and then to reach our audience in a way that resonates with them and brings the transformation that we really want to see in their lives. So before we get into that stage, I would like everybody, or maybe not everybody, because we're quite a lot here, but if you can drop one or two things you've picked up from these 3 E's we've talked about: why it's important for us to be educated about what's going on, how that education is what leads to us empowering our children, right, and families to actually show up and use technology appropriately. And thirdly, why it's so important to have empathy for the world that our children are growing up in and our young adults are growing up in. The world I grew up in and the world my children grew up in, guess what? There's almost no overlap. There's no overlap. So let's be dropping it. Let's be dropping it because, it's important that we think, okay, what have I picked up from here? Maybe you've heard it before and you're like, okay, this has just, solidified a particular point I had in my head, or, this is something brand new I never thought about before. Let's just drop it in the chat. A few months ago, when I was trying to talk to my children about why they cannot use social media in the morning before school, the example I used was this. I said, imagine you're getting your young cousin ready for school, and he tells you he wants to go to the playground before he eats breakfast and go to school. What will you say? They're like, that doesn't make sense now. We're rushing to school. How can he want to go to the playground? I said, fantastic. I said, the equivalent is a digital playground. That's what your social media is. Is that what you should be doing first thing in the morning? Or there are other things you can use your morning to do to get ready for school? Do you know that's what stuck with them versus saying, don't go on, don't go on? That is the story that stuck. So we need to become storytellers. We can't just be saying, don't do that, don't do that. We ourselves need to become storytellers because we've taken the time to understand with empathy the world they're living in, why they can't seem to not go on social media first thing in the morning, and use things that help them connect the dots to say, I see what you're saying. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing. All right, I'm going to pick some of the things that we're saying here now. Education is a tool for influence. We can't influence our children positively if we're not rightly educated. Absolutely. Critical. Solidification. Equasi, what does that one mean? Please explain. Every family must have a digital well-being plan. Absolutely, Yinka. We all talk about having values and visions as a family. If we do not have a digital well-being plan, the person who fails to plan plans to what? Fail. Don't just wish it. Hope is not a strategy. What is your plan as a family? During dinner, for example, there should be no screen time, right? There are certain things you must put in place in your family because you have to remember that story I shared earlier. The number of children in universities struggling, that's because somebody somewhere didn't teach them, right, how to use all these tools that are made to be addictive. No question about it. They are made to be addictive. So what does that mean for you if you're not raising a child who knows how to turn off their phone, how to use notifications properly so that their brain can stay in the flow? I've had to teach my children the importance of flow. There is nothing like multitasking. It is a myth. So if you are online doing homework, your phone is beside you pinging, there is no way you are studying. There's no way that thing is entering your brain. And what you are doing is frying your neural pathways. It's not developing and myelinating and getting the connection it needs to get. Our children need to understand all of this. So every family must have a digital well-being plan. Absolutely. We need to become storytellers. Yes. We need to flow with them. Short form content is on the increase. Do we know what that is? Those 1 minute, 2 minutes content that your children just sit down and are scrolling. They're not going deeper. Research actually shows now that very few people, especially children, can sit down and watch a video that's almost more than 5 minutes without scrolling away. Our attention span is becoming less than goldfish, 8 seconds. So just imagine what that means for a child who's developing on short form content. They can't read a book because to them it's slow, it's boring. They can't even watch a movie without being distracted. All of those things are affecting their brain development. All of these things need to be brought into our families and into our practices so we know exactly how we're supporting the next generation. All right, I'm going to just pick like 3 more and then we're going to talk about some of the tools and how we can use them. Okay, explain to children what you want them to know. Don't just throw it at them. Absolutely. When we're educated, we can have adequate knowledge to empower our children. We need to use compelling stories to drive our points. I like this, Esther. The goal is not to deprive them from using technology. The goal is to help them use it wisely. Absolutely. I can't be an effective parent if I'm unaware of the world my child is growing up in. As a parent, it's my responsibility to bring context to the content they are constantly interacting with. Thank you. There's so many great points here. Thank you for sharing them. But I bring all of that to say, when we think about tech, we think about disruption, I think of it as opportunity. I say, what is the opportunity here for me to be the connector between the past that we knew and the future we don't know? And we just rest in that. We are making a connection between the past we knew and the future we do not know. We're in the fourth industrial revolution, which means everything is digital, faster, quicker. Now, I want information now, I go into it. I get it right away. So that ability of waiting, testing, critical thinking is something that's been eroded. And that's where we come in to ensure that we can ensure that that's something that everybody is able to use it positively and not negatively. Okay, great. So now I don't know how much I have longer. So if somebody is helping me with time management so that we can make sure that we cover everything and we can have enough time for Q&A. So in terms of, the world that we live in being very different, I want us to talk about things from a practitioner perspective, because I do a lot of training as well for coaches, right? In terms of, okay, what does this all mean for us? How do I reach more people? How do I work more efficiently? So this lecture is a bit of twofold. One is on the parenting side and what we need to think about as families. But the next one, thank you. But the next one is really around, okay, what does this mean for us as practitioners? How are we using technology to help with our storytelling, with our content creation, with our lead magnets? We're getting more clients. Is this information that will be useful for us to cover for the next maybe 5 to 10 minutes? If it's a yes, let's just drop that in. Yes, we would like to just learn more about this. Fantastic. So we know all of this. All these tools exist. ChatGPT is the big daddy of them all that has just come out. But what does that mean for you? How are you using it? The first thing to realize is that we are not supposed to be working harder. We're supposed to be working smarter. Not harder, but smarter. So when we talk about working smarter, that means being able to sit down and say, there's a place for passion, there's a place for a heart for the people and your clients, but then there's a place to ensure how are we using all of these tools that exist. When I started to think about preparing a presentation for today, and I was going to add all the tools that exist for a coach potentially to use or a therapist to use to reach more audience, there were so many I felt they will be overwhelmed. So let's step back and think about the strategy around it first. Then the tools are the secondary thing that come. The first thing is that everybody is going to go online to find you as a practitioner. But when I come across your material or your website or your social media, do I know who you serve, how you serve them, and how you are going to ensure the transformation that I am looking for? People are not coming to you because of how you are going to get them there. They are coming to you because of what you are promising that you are going to do. Now, a lot of people can say they're a parenting coach, and the interesting thing is that I have this new, what do I want to call it? People come to me, the questions they're asking me is around digital, is around tech, is around, this digital stuff is confusing me, confusing my family, what can I do about it? So I really think it's important that we use all of these tools to our advantage. And some of the ways you can do that, first of all, is ensuring that you have a great landing page and story so that when people come across you, they know exactly what you're offering them and how you are going to take them from point A to point B. The second thing is that when we're talking about analytics, data is money. Data is value. A lot of us serve people, but we don't keep their information. So how do you know that, okay, majority of my clients that come to me come for this particular service, come for this particular need. This is how I am measuring success. I'm starting to see a pattern in terms of what people are coming to, what people need my intervention for. When you know what they are looking for, when you know what they come to you for more and more, then you are able to start creating products and solutions that are more automated. Right? I hope I'm making sense. Then it's easier for you to start packaging that. And rather than say you serve everybody, because nobody can serve everybody. I don't serve every family. Who do you serve? And how do you serve them? You can start getting to a point where you are more efficient. You are more automated. You are now able to say, you know what, based on this information, this data that I have, I'm able to now provide the stories, the content, the solution that serves those people. When they land on Kingsley's page, for example, they know exactly what he does and how he does it. They might not be ready at that time, right, to book you for a service. What you want to offer is a way for them to get into your world outside of social media or however they find you, so that you have their data. Data is gold in today's day and age. So if you know that somebody that landed on your page clicked on a link, gave you their first name, their email address, and they've clicked a link to say, I want to learn more about whatever it is that you do, guess what that tells you? That tells you that that potential person, that avatar is looking for particular information. You can now take time to be analyzing what people are coming into your funnel. It's called a funnel. What are they coming into your funnel for? Then you start serving them and serving them so well that it becomes something where they continuously talk about you. They come back to your services. You're able to go deeper with them in terms of the analytics around what they are looking for. Many times for coaches, I find that we can be so passionate that we don't spend the time we need to understand our audience truly and then go down a niche part so that it's easier for us to get them coming back, return. So I want to talk about analytics. I want to talk about understanding your funnel. How are they finding you as a coach? What is your content that you're putting out there? Do they know exactly how you are going to help them? Don't wait for just word of mouth. People are Googling people every day. They're looking for you online. So if you have a great what's the word I'm looking for? If you have great position and keywords out there and they find you, they know exactly what you serve, how you help them, and how you help them get transformation. It's easier for them to connect and continue to come back into your funnel. And then thirdly, I want to talk about the importance of AI. We can't ignore it. Who here has not used ChatGPT yet? If you haven't tried using ChatGPT, we're not shaming or blaming. We just want to know. Can you just drop it and say you haven't tried it yet at all? Anybody here has not? Maybe you haven't even heard about it. Tell me if you haven't heard about it or if you haven't tried it. Okay. I have some people saying, okay, some are also sending me directly, no problem. All right, fine. That's good. It's good to know. It's fantastic. Now, the reason I bring it up is that, you know, I talked earlier about what? Working smarter, not harder. AI is here to help you. Basically, you can be a one-man team and it'll be like you have 6 people on that team. So what it does is that it helps you to really work smarter. Remember, I talked about analytics and data and all of that. How I'm going to connect the two for you here is this. So imagine in my case, I know how most people find me. I have a landing page. I have different things that pop up based on what they're interested in. Maybe it's a parent who says, I'm struggling with screen time. I struggle with digital media. I struggle with how to help my family when it comes to family digital well-being plan. I take them to the funnel. I give them a free quiz they can take. Okay, take this quiz to figure out exactly where you fall when it comes to your digital parenting skills. A result comes out. When that result comes out, 2 things happen. They get an email that tells them, based on the quiz you have taken, right? This is where you fall in terms of digital parenting awareness. They come into a funnel, that's my funnel, that tells me what? This is a parent who is interested in learning more about digital parenting. That then means that they go into a funnel for me where I'm constantly giving them that information around digital parenting. I have another one for people who've just had children. I have another one for people thinking about school abroad. They all fall into different segments. Now, the way I use AI, for example, is to say, all right, give me a prompt, or I go in and I talk about, okay, I want to create content. I want to create a worksheet. Summer is coming now. I want to create a worksheet that's going to support parents during the summer to ensure that their children do not become Mickey Mouse over the summer because all they do is watch cartoon. Okay? It's going to give me content that's going to be specifically for those people. AI helps you work faster and quicker. You get that content out there, you package it for those people that have come into your funnel, you give it to them as freebies. One of the things I've learned is when you give good quality freebies, and you don't have to hire a team of 20 writers, right? Is that when you give people free information that is useful to them in the phase they are in their life, it doesn't stop them from coming to find you. What it does is it continues to solidify in their mind that you are the right person to help them with this particular area of their life because you are continuing to serve them that information. Okay, so ChatGPT, there are many of them. I'm not focusing only on that because there are many of them out there now. In fact, ChatGPT, I would say you have to be careful how you use it because it's open source. So anything you put out there is going to be seen. It's possibly being saved somewhere. So you want to use it as a guide, but you don't want to put all your proprietary brand new information in there. Maybe you've come up with one particular product, you go and put it in there. That means it's open to the world. It's kind of open source, right? But these are some of the ways that we can use technology to enhance our families, our parenting, our coaching. We can start seeing how are we serving people better? How are we finding them where they are and giving them the information they need so that they can continue to stay within our circle. And then that's what's converting our followers, our people that just know you loosely online. That's what's converting them into paid clients, into return clients. But you're using technology to make you work smarter because things have changed. Families are really concerned. Everybody feels like they don't quite know how to win in this new tech world that we're in. But what you can do is be that intersection, right? As family practitioners, as parents, we can be that intersection that says, I'm educated about what's going on. I'm open. I lean in. Different things come up at different times. Now that I know, I can actually empower my clients, my children, to use it for good, to show up and have better families, to improve their communication, to make sure that they are owning the content that they are seeing. I don't have a child in my house that I think is Nigerian, but he's actually Chinese in his interests and his beliefs and his friendships and everything. And then it's like you're aliens. And then lastly, you do it from a place of empathy, which is, all right, what does the person in front of me right now need? And how can I actually serve them? Whether that is your child, a client, you can then actually be able to connect the dots. So I know it's a lot of information. And one of the things I found is when you give too much information, it can feel like, okay, I don't even know where to start. But what I want us to take away from here is the world has changed. Tech, I don't even see it as a disruption. I see it as the fact of life that we live in now. There was a time that we didn't have steam engines. There was a time we didn't have trains. There was a time we didn't have cars. There was a time we didn't have planes. There was a time we didn't have Google. Some of us cannot imagine life without Google, right? There was a time we didn't have all of those things. Now we're just in a time that we have AI, for example. So things continue to evolve. What we must do is lean in and be willing to evolve with the time so that we don't come from a place of fear. We come from a place of, all right, I have information. I now want to use this information to be more efficient, to be more effective, and to continue to serve my audience, whoever they are, in a way that resonates with them. I feel like I've talked for so long. I feel like drinking water. When I saw that it was 15 minutes of talking, I said, that's a long time because there's so many things to cover. And I just hope this has been helpful. I hope that what we take away from here is just the fact that the world is evolving. We can evolve with it. And no matter where you play, where you sit, there's so much you can unlock. Once it starts from here, it's our mindset. Once with the mindset, we say, you know what, I can learn. I will learn. And when I learn, I will make better informed decisions, help my family, my children, my clients. Then guess what? It becomes a muscle that gets, it's like a six-pack. Even if you get the best coach in the world, you have to do the crunches, Abby. So it's the same principle. It's the same principle. So thank you so much. If we can now speak about, now I would like to take some specifics. If somebody wants specific questions, if you have specific questions, I can now give you tools that would help you with that. So I think we still have a few more minutes around that, and then I can answer those specific questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Yeti Williams. That was a lot that you've said already. And I want to believe that everyone has gotten a lot of value, already. I would start by asking you a question, while I wait for other people who have questions. Now, as family life practitioners, we're looking at the future. What, in your opinion, do you think machines will be able to do that practitioners may not be able to do in the future? And what are those things that you think machines will never be able to do that will still make human beings, practitioners, relevant when it comes to family science in the future? That's my first question.
That's a great question. And there's some things that, we don't know. We don't know if machines will get to a point where they have feelings, right? So my first answer would be that I don't believe that machines will take the place of humans, because human beings, we still have feelings. And when somebody is in front of you, you can read body language. You know when you're connecting. You know when you need to change direction. You know when something you said has opened up a whole new area of what maybe they are not saying. And then as a practitioner, you're able to go into details around that. So for now, I still believe that machines can never do that. Machine cannot replace humans. But I say for now, we don't know. The way everything is going, you'll be surprised. If you talk to, if you use AI now, you'll be amazed at the responses it gives you and the way it says it. And it's part of why we have to really talk about it with our children, because the way the new generative AI gives you responses is not Google. It speaks as if it's a human being that I can tell it to speak to me like it's straightforward. I can train it on the content you've been putting out all across the web. So by the time he's replying me, he's replying as if it's you talking to me. That's part of how this generative AI is being used. So I don't think it's going to be able to read human responses and nuances. But I keep saying for now, because we don't know. So that's one thing. The second thing is that what can it do that maybe that's better than what we do? What I found that it does is that it scrubs data very, very well. So if you have the ability to keep data on your clients, and I don't mean intrusive data, I'm talking about things like where are they coming from, how are they landing on your website, how are they finding you? That's information you can get that can help you be more effective. So for example, one of the ways I use AI is that it helps me create content in a way that is responsive, in a way that's great for my audience. And I'm speaking to them based on the things that AI has shown me they are searching for. Do you see what I mean? So rather than talk from a place of, I think this is what people want to know, I'm able to use AI in a way that I know exactly what people are searching for. I know what's a concern based on the market that I'm talking to. And I'm therefore able to create content in a way that speaks to that person. So when it lands in your mailbox, for example, and you see me telling you the things that I've seen you have been searching for, will you not think I'm a witch? Mm-hmm. But I'm not. I'm just using data in a way that makes me very effective. So that's one thing for me. I love, I wish more of us would realize that the special sauce we carry is that we can use data to help us be more effective, but then we use our tone, our knowledge, our insights to make that so powerful that by the time I share it with you, it's almost as if I was in your room in your house. And you're thinking, how did Yeti know that this is what we were struggling with in our house? Guess what's going to happen? They are going to call you now. I've been waiting, but it's like that email you sent yesterday, man. That's exactly what we're discussing at dinner yesterday. Oh, yeah. I need a session with you tomorrow. I hope that answers your question.
Well, a bit. I'll come back to you. Otuke, please, or is it Otuke or is it Otuke? I can see Otuke saying that So true. Yet there are times I create content on ChatGPT by giving instructions like, imagine you are Principal where creates content on blah, 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 and it will do that. Okay, so let me take it a little bit further, right? Someone is asking a question. Is there a possibility that AI will reduce, before I go to my own next question, is there a possibility that AI will reduce the rate at which people seek for the services of family life practitioners in years to come? Are there information that we will be able to provide that AI can't provide?
What I believe is that, I saw a quote a little while ago, and there's a gentleman called Mo Gaudat, I think that's how it's pronounced. And basically, he said that we all have a role to parent AI. If we don't, AI is going to be a monster in the future that's going to bite all of us. Secondly, he said, you will not lose your job to AI. What you will lose your job to is people who are able to use AI. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, I don't think there'll be a time when people don't need, people will always need coaches, they'll need therapists, they'll need psychotherapists. I believe they will always need them. What the challenge is going to continue to be is how relevant we are. So imagine you have a client who's dealing with, I don't know, for example, we see, for example, that exposure to porn is on the increase, mm-hmm. right? Then imagine your response to somebody who tells you, oh, I'm always watching porn, is to say, oh, don't do it. God doesn't like you using that. You know it's bad for you. And that's all you've said. You haven't understood that when you do a digital audit, for example, you will find out that your child has nothing less than 10 potential sources to this thing they've become addicted to. Are we together? So if as a therapist, for example, you are not relevant to say, let's talk about all the ways that you access it. So just telling you not to do it. And I'm bringing it up because this is one that comes up quite a bit. And when we do this exercise with parents, we realize that the child has 4 smart devices in the house, right? Their phone, television, iPad, mommy's on, daddy's on, nanny's on, right? Then they have maybe 6 different social media apps. So maybe mommy is thinking, that Snapchat, I've deleted it, but they have Twitter, they have TikTok. So my point is the relevance is what we bring. So we need to stay relevant. We need to be cutting edge. We need to be asking questions and let them know that we know what's up. Because nowadays, anybody can go to ChatGPT and say, I am feeling sad. How do I feel better? Give me 4 tips to feel better that doesn't include drinking alcohol. It will tell them. Mm-hmm. So what you bring is that human nature where you're able to ask the questions that ChatGPT cannot ask. So I don't think they will not need us. I think how they will continue to come back to us is how relevant we are to speak to them in a way that talks to the life that they're actually living today.
Okay. Now, Yeti, I want you to, so I wanted to speak to now a lot of digital natives, a lot of digitalization is on AI and everything. So I want us to look at the gaps and the opportunities that exist, because with AI, there seems to be a reduction in human interaction, right? What danger does this portend to the wellness of the average family person? So there's a data that shows that interaction between couples have actually reduced, as in face-to-face interaction, human-to-human interaction. So imagine there are couples at home, who are using WhatsApp to talk to themselves in all, one of the things that, for example, birthdays, take birthdays, for example. If I ask you, Yates, between Praise flying from Dallas to come and be with you on your birthday and just greeting you and sending a lovely message on Facebook, which one would you prefer?
To come now, if you can come. That's my preference.
So that's an obvious gap, How do you think tech disruption is going to affect families, and what gaps do you think will exist that professionals can position to take advantage of? For example, they're saying that by the year 2040, depression will be the #1 killer in the world. And we know that depression does not just happen by itself, because a lot of people have 25,000 followers. Meanwhile, they are still very lonely. So what do you think we need to do? How do you think we need to position to take advantage of, maybe the downside of tech?
I was watching a show the other time or some time ago that showed there's an increase in, I forget what they are called, but now you can sign somebody up to hug you. Cuddling, I think it's cuddling coaches.
Yeah, yeah. They do it in America. Yeah.
So they don't have humans around them that can cuddle and hug them. So they're actually paying people to hug them. So if you say what's the opportunity, that's an opportunity. If you like hugging and cuddling people, you can create a practice that does that. But jokes apart, the truth is that loneliness is on the increase. There's a lot of research around that. A lot of teenagers nowadays actually don't have good social skills, in-person social skills. All of them are behind screens. They are being raised on screens, and they actually don't have human connection. So that's an area where I keep going back to for now. I know it sounds like what's wrong with this woman, but for now, we haven't seen anything that replaces the human connection. And what I'm seeing is that young adults, teenagers, a lot of them that were raised on the streets of social media, they don't have the skill set of relationships, of being able to speak to somebody and make eye contact. You will give a child a phone today and they're like, what do you want me to say on the phone? Can I not just message them? So a lot of them are retreating from doing things that relate to humans. They would prefer to chat. They would prefer to text. So what we can do is realize that screens cannot replace human interactions, but we have to be intentional about it. We can't just say, you need humans. What does that mean? At home, as a family, mom and dad, do you drop your phones and talk to each other? Or do your children see you sitting beside each other on the couch and you are both in your various worlds? They are learning a cue from you, that is how you interact. So it's really for us to be more mindful of what should the world look like if we didn't have screens. What did it look like? What do we still need? And then how do we start to speak to people in a way that speaks to that emotion? So what you said, for example, PF, where you said somebody can have 25,000 followers and still be lonely. That speaks to a lot of people versus saying, don't measure your life by followers. I don't know if you see what I'm saying. The emotion is how we speak to them. Most people can relate to that. That yes, I have a lot of followers, but I'm very lonely. And then you use that to be what draws people in. And then maybe you're a coach who your role is to help people with actually being able to speak to people. But some young adults can't speak. They can't engage with humans. They can't have a conversation if it's not a screen. So that is where I see the opportunity is, let's pay attention to what is going on in the world, the challenges that are coming, and then how do we start to speak to them in a way that talks to their emotional need for them to see, oh my God, that sounds like me. And I would hate to be somebody who's in my 50s and I don't have any friends because everybody is online and I don't even know who they are.
Okay. Thank you very much, Yeti. Now, when it comes to AI and tech, one of the things I've also realized is the narrative management and narrative creation intentional. So you can see that they subliminally condition us through movies, and we don't know that they are conditioning us, right? If you remember, I think you and I saw a movie, it's a Black Mirror. Black Mirror, yeah. And you can see the subliminal, how a child can be moved and to change his sexuality, talking about metaverse and the avatars and the rest of them. I mean, don't you think that practitioners have a huge gap? Because now everybody is coaching, I'm coaching. Don't you think we need to also begin to script narratives intentionally to make a case for, so for example, imagine if we showed a movie that, or do a documentary that shows how even with AI or tech, people are lonely, people are going to be depressed, and they will need professionals with human touch who can, don't you think that they are way ahead in content creation and we are just waiting and hoping that, people have problems before they come to us? What do you have to say to that?
Absolutely. And that's why I say, how we use data and how we create content is where the magic is, right? Most people, and I found it, especially in the family space and parenting, I don't know if you agree, PF, is that most people come and look for somebody to help them with parenting when there's a problem. Many times when there's a problem, they show up. But when we talk about prior, don't let the problem exist. See, for example, what I see there today in quite a few parents' mind. I bet you that it has probably sunk more if a parent thinks about the fact that I don't want my child to go to university. And when I'm not there to be a monitoring spirit, that's when the child is now struggling with the ability to focus and do their work and not be addicted to social media. So if you talk about it that way, I should be thinking, how am I preparing my 15-year-old to be ready for 2 or 3 years when they leave home and they go to uni? You then work backwards. So I really believe that we have a huge space where we can be speaking in a way that resonates with families, resonates with parents, so that they're not waiting. And that's one thing that I'm really focused on is, how do we avoid waiting for there to be a problem before we go and find somebody to support us when there is a challenge? So absolutely, we need to be creating content in a way that is storytelling, talks to the emotions of the people they need to be activated to act, and realize that social media, Netflix, that Black Mirror, when I watched it, my husband thought I wasn't okay. He said, this weird show you're watching. But now he was like, come, some of those things we saw.
Yeah.
Do you know when we watched that, we lived in Nigeria, here in the UK. And when we're on the tube, it's like we're in Black Mirror. Everybody is like this.
Yes.
So God forbid something happens. Therefore, police cannot even get you to say, but you were on that train at that time. Didn't you notice that the person next to you punched somebody? Nobody knows because they are all in their digital world. So there's a huge opportunity for the content that we put out there. And I think we need to lead more by content. We need to lead more by messaging than waiting for people to find us to say, I have a problem. Can you please help me solve it?
Okay, so in a nutshell, what Yeti is saying is that the old rule of family life practitioners is to wait for the client. The new rule is that you have to go to them. That's what she's saying. And also, I think one of the gaps that we have now seen that someone here can build solution around is, it looks like there is less concentration and focus, right? So if you can come up with a justification, create a market for the need, why people need to focus, why people need to concentrate. For example, there was a situation of a school bus driver who passed out, maybe had a heart attack, while the bus was on, and there was only one child who quickly got on the steering to prevent what would have been a fatal accident, and the only reason was that the boy had no device, right? And so those are marketing tools that we can leverage on to begin to create a space for ourselves. Now, there is a question here that says, how do we stay on the cutting edge of educating ourselves? Ma, can you recommend specific resources, newsletters, or communities we can plug into? And also, in addition to that, someone else is asking, are there apps that you can recommend that can enhance our practice as family life practitioners?
So when we say enhance our life as family life practitioners, is that our skill set as practitioners, or is that in terms of how to use technology? I wonder what they mean by that.
Enhance. So, for example, I would think that you have mentioned ChatGPT. ChatGPT can help you in content creation. For example, are there other apps that can help you do specific stuff? Maybe for example, I think I'm in Family Life Coaching Association America. I'm on the board, and I know that when we do meetings, there is an AI that takes minutes of the meeting. Okay. So I'm sure those are the things that they're talking about. Since you said that AI will enhance our effectiveness, what are the recommended apps that you think that people can use for specifics? Maybe content creation, maybe community management, or maybe minutes taking, or maybe even you're having a session with your client, are there apps that can create a report of the conversation and stuff like that?
Okay. Yes. What I would say is that how I would like to answer that is for all of us to sit down and think about, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to improve on? What area do you want to become more efficient in? When you can list those, guess what? There's a tool for every single thing. So everything you've mentioned, PF, there's something for everything. So for example, YouTube, you can use ChatGPT plugin to take a YouTube video and use ChatGPT and tell it to summarize that YouTube video for you in 5 key points. The YouTube is 1 hour long. You don't have time to watch 1 hour video. You would tell it to cut it out for you, summarize it for you. And this is where prompt engineering comes in. Prompt engineering basically means learning what you are telling ChatGPT to do for you. Junk in, junk out. But let's take that example. Act like, I'm going to keep using you, PF. Act like you are PF, the top family practitioner in the world. Listen to this YouTube video that I'm going to put the link to it here. And I want you to listen to it and give me the 5 top tips from this video that was a conversation between this person and this person, and give it to me in a format that's going to be for a report that's 500 words. When you put all of that I've just said, you will then say, do you understand? You will hit go. ChatGPT will reply you and say, oh, I understand that you want me to. It will summarize what you have asked it to do. It will now tell you, guess what? Can you post the link to the YouTube video? So your assistant is now waiting for you. You will now take the link of the video, you will drop it there, and it will give you the 5 top tips from that particular YouTube channel or YouTube session. Like this one we have just done now, you can do it. It would say, what is the 5 top tips so that I need to know from all of these things that we have said? So those are some of the ways you can use it. So what I would advise you is, guess what, guys? There is no limit. So whatever it is you want to improve on, start from being clear on what that is, and then look for the tool. They exist. The second thing I wanted to answer was in terms of how to get more content. All you really need to do is, honestly, Google it. I know it sounds silly, but what do you want to learn? Where do you want to get better? And that's why I believe in looking at my practice and saying, where can I improve? Do I want more customers? Do I want more paying customers? Do I want to save time? What do I want to do? Then how can I find the tools? YouTube has, not YouTube, Zoom. Zoom has an app that I use. So after a meeting, not only does it summarize the meeting for me, you know what it does? This one is called read.ai. It will analyze it for me. It will tell me the highlights of the meeting. It will tell me what the next steps were. So maybe, for example, PF, as we're finishing now, you say, okay, Yeti, you know what we need to do next is we need to create our joint company that's going to do this. I need you to do. It will tell you what all of those things are that you have told me is the next steps. And then lastly, what it also does for you is it analyzes your speaking. That one blew my mind. It analyzed my speaking. It pointed out to me that I talk too fast. I'm still working on that. But the point is, these things all exist, and a lot of them are for free. So back to what somebody said in the comments, Tomiwa, there are no limits. Think about what you want. We live in a world where there's a tool for everything.
Okay, thank you very much, Mamileko. Okay, it looks like I've exhausted all the questions on the chat box. Maybe my final question with you to you will be, I mean, you talked about, okay, so someone is saying, can you speak a little to tools we can use for helping plan our family digital well-being, especially for teenagers? Okay, I think there's a question like that there.
Get in touch with me, whoever put that question down, because I do have a worksheet I've created that helps you look at your family and how you're going to create a family digital well-being plan. It needs to be based a little bit on your values. It needs to be based on what you're already doing. And it needs to be based on you understanding what your children like doing online, because it can't be blanket. So whoever, I think it was Kingsley, I think, yeah. Send me a message. I have a worksheet that will let you do that. And then you can actually create a family well-being plan based on those activities. I mean,
okay.
Based on the worksheet, sorry.
Mamileko, Bird or ChatGPT? Which would you recommend?
Both.
Okay, because I can see a tussle online. In fact, I think the Bird people are putting on a lot of narrative on why people should dump ChatGPT and come that it offers more and all. You know, oh, someone is saying Bird. Okay, I've not really.
I've used the two, and one of the things I don't know, there's something about ChatGPT. I don't know if it's a little bit of first mover advantage because I maybe started using it first. Maybe that's why I have a little bit more affinity towards it. But I find that there's something about the responses from it that I find a little bit more detailed than bad. But that's just me.
Okay. Someone is saying, how do you maintain a close tab on intelligent teenage girls that were onboarded on Net Nanny but not inclined?
But no child wants you to be monitoring them now. That's a given. So if you mean that, they were on board on it, but they don't like it, they don't want to use it, you just have to, first of all, you have to go back to saying, why are you monitoring your children? Why are you monitoring their devices? They need to understand where you're coming from. They don't have to like it, but they need to understand. I believe that before you give a child a device, you should have contracts that you sign with them. You let them know who controls the contract. I mean, the devices. You let them know you are going to have a password, not because you don't trust them. These children are smart now. Mine were telling me things like, "It's that you don't trust me." I say, not that I don't trust you. It is more that it is what's outside there that I don't trust. So it's my job to protect you and to ensure that you know how to use all of these tools that's out there. So I would say we all have to put the rules in place. But once your child is 16, for example, guess what? Probably cannot continue to monitor them the way when they were 13. So you have to look towards weaning them off and getting them to a place where they are a responsible user by themselves. That for me is the ultimate goal.
Okay, finally, Yetunde, I won't allow you go. As Africans, looks like they create things for us and we are using. When are we going to start creating our own AI, our own chat AFP or something like that, or PFX, that they're going to use? Is it that we are limited, or what do you think the problem is?
We've one of the main things is our educational system. I believe that a lot of us were raised to use what's given to us, right? So we're not native creators. That's what I believe. We're not native creators of all of these things. And there's another show. I know, Pierre, you like shows. Have you watched Coded Bias on Netflix?
Yeah, I think I started it. I started it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we need to watch Coded Bias because when we watch it, what it shows us is that, guess what? ChatGPT doesn't like you or like me. Yeah. If there's not enough data on you, praise PS, yes, it's not going to give me content that relates to you. Yes. So we from the continent, Coded Bias, the second one.
Yeah.
Yes. So we need people from the continent to be creating more content so that there's more data that all of this generative AI is being trained on. So that when I put something and says, tell me about it has that information. We need to get to that point where we start creating. And that's why, for me, we really have to focus on raising our children to not be passive consumers. Hello, are we together? Too many children are passive consumers of this content. They are not thinking, they are not creating, they are not adding their own. They are just sitting down there like this, scrolling. So whatever your child is interested in online, get them to create it. That is how we can start to break it. That's what I believe. So my child likes video games. I got him on Scratch. Create a video game. My daughter likes watching videos of them dancing. I told her the other day, Auntie, this dancing that you have as a skill, can you create something that shows you are actually a dancer, not just watching people? She created one, and in fact, guess what? Don Jazzy picked it up and put it on his page. I was like, wow. But that's because she created a dance move. So my point is, let's start getting our children to be creators. That's how we'll change the continent.
Thank you very much, Mamileko Yetunde Williams, for obliging us and for showing up today. Guys, can we just appreciate Yetunde Williams and the chat box? I believe that the Lord has been said today. I'm going to hand over to Odufa. Thank you very much, Yeti, for showing up for us. Thank you so much. Okay, Odufa, over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, PF. Come on, let's give that round of applause, whether it's busting, pom-poms on the chat box. Let's give it up for Yeti Williams. Like, if we're going to pay for a session like this, I'm sure it will cost a lot. So please put your hands together, hail her, and like, so that when you reach out to her, she's going to respond to you. Thank you so much, Yeti Williams. Thank you so much, PF, for those powerful questions. You know, when we ask the right questions, we get the right kind of answers. I myself feel empowered. You know, I myself, she said we should be educated, empowered, and have empathy. But I myself, I feel empowered. I came here like I'm one of the category of people that she said, you know, when you're already afraid of the problem, you will not be able to do anything, because I was already getting confused with this whole thing. But now I'm feeling like I can climb the top of the mountain and I can do a lot with it. I'm seeing it now as an opportunity. Wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. Who can remember the first thing that she said when she started this conversation? Can anybody remember something very profound that she said when she first started this conversation? Can you remember? Can anybody remember something very profound she mentioned when she started this conversation? Okay, let me not keep us waiting. She said, nobody is the gatekeeper of knowledge anymore. So this conversation, this public lecture is not the end. Just see it as an activation to go on to continue to press in for more knowledge. Thank you so much, Yeti. So at this point of this conversation, we are going to invite the Director of Studies again, Coach Dima, to come and give us some, insight into the Family Systems Engineering Certification course. Coach Dima.
Thank you, Odufa, and thank you, Yeti Williams. So you know why I call her Yeti AI. Thank you so much for that amazing insights, for everything you shared with us. I've just been, my notes are full, even with thinking and already working as an intentional parent and also in the family life space. So thank you, Yeti. We're really blessed by having you here. Again,
thank you so much for having me.
So from what we've shared today, like I said at the beginning, I still think that even if AI can continue to improve on how it can put in human elements, like Yeti said, not yet, but I'm almost going to say that I don't think they will ever get to a point where it can absolutely replace humans. All right, as much as improvements will keep coming, there is that factor that makes us human, the way we can connect, the way you can be in the moment. And so let's not get ruffled, and let's not think that AI is going to replace us. But something I'm taking home that Yeti said, I think she was quoting from somebody, and she said, AI may not replace us, but most likely we will be replaced by people who know how to use AI. And I think for me, that's the summary of this engagement, where you are open to how you can use AI in what you're doing so that it can increase speed, it can increase accuracy, it can increase reachability, it can increase adaptability, and a lot more that can help us work smarter. But again, when we're talking of AI and we're talking of bringing context to content, it now boils down to, what are you going to use AI for? And so if you're a passionate person, you want to help families, you want to support families, let me tell you about the family systems engineering approach if you are not yet a member of that community. And one easiest way of becoming a member of the community is by taking our certification program. Again, we are here talking about tech disruptions. However, if I'm drawing from Yeti's story, even with how she went about getting the grant from Google, many key things stand out in that approach. She had a message that was not only timely, but was relevant. And so you might be passionate about family life, but what tools do you have? What approach are you using that can give you resounding results? That is also what the family systems engineering course can help you do, where you understand the uniqueness of the mind, the uniqueness of a person, how we are all engineered as people, and how we can re-engineer ourselves. So if you're here and you want to use AI, or you're even passionate about families, but you don't have the family systems engineering tools in your toolbox, I want you to begin to think about that. So admin, please drop for me the link for today's special offer for those who want to join the family systems engineering practitioners by taking the course. What this will do for you is that you will be equipped with the skills to understand human engineering and how to help people create change, so that you have a context for what you're using AI for. Again, Yeti told us about the importance of data and analytics. Part of the things that we pride ourselves in the Institute is coming up with our authentic psychometric tools. I think it was PF in engaging with Yeti and say, why are we like giving to copying what Europe, Americans and the West are doing? How about creating our own AI tools? And I think we're in that era even as an institute, because we've created our own psychometric tools, which we gave a native name, the Oyela. So if you're Yoruba here, you know that Oyela stands for something that helps you see beyond the physical, a kind of a divination tool that can help you get into the lives of people, get into their minds, their marriages, their families, and understand what is happening so that you can profess solutions. I tell you, with that, if you now leverage AI, you can really do a lot. So we're inviting you to take the Family Systems Engineering Certification Program for us. And like, I know that we are all from different parts of the globe. So this certification program is offered virtually. So you get to spend 12 weeks with us, learning about how human beings are engineered, learning about the different personality types and how to help each person be at their best, learning different marital formations. And I must tell you, I say this with pride because of the work we have put into it. Also learning how to coach families to become like the dream family, where we're talking not only digital responsibility, digital well-being, we're also talking everything that makes a holistic person. And that coaching template, the Ultimate Dream Nation template, has been said to not only be a coaching tool, it is a strategy tool, is a coaching tool, is a therapy tool, all in one. So I like my people who have taken FSC and are currently using those tools to please come and buttress what I'm saying in the chat room for members of the community who will be joining us. So again, another thing that I say with pride is that FSC is one of about the only that I know, except one that you're going to tell me, certification program that doesn't just leave you on your own. Whilst you're taking the 12 weeks training with us and learning all of these things, we attach you to a mentor who is going to hold your hands with your other classmates and help you really master the approach. Not only that, 3 months even after taking the training, you still have access to your mentors for free. I've taken lots of certification programs internationally, and I can tell you, I am yet to encounter, if there's somebody that's done trainings, I think I can raise my hand and say I've traveled wild and near, and I've gotten different international certifications, but I did not get any that gave me a dedicated mentor for 6 months without me having to pay extra. So that is one thing you enjoy with us, because we don't just want to get people out there. We want to be sure that you master the tools so that when you are out in the world, you can really be impacting people. Another thing that makes me proud to be the director of studies at the institute that is offering FSC is that you don't come to class. Even though we do 12 weeks of rigorous training with you, we're not yet comfortable to say, take the certificate, you are now a certified practitioner, because we understand that the work we are doing is the work of the arts. Like, a lot of lives have been damaged by people who are passionate, but then are not well trained in helping people. And so in the bid to help them, they mislead them or misguide them. So what we also do is that post the training, you also have guidance to go into the field. So we call it our practicum, our field work, and you use the tools in a way that we have pre-designed for you so that you can accumulate training, field work experience. And then when you get back with your report, then you go through other processes and we can now say, you know what, this person has demonstrated enough competence, enough mastery, and you are now elevated from an associate practitioner to a practitioner of family systems engineering. So if I'm speaking to you and you are, and fourthly is that we have practitioners across the world. Yeti Williams is in the UK. She's doing amazing work. We have other practitioners who are in the UK, in the US, in Canada, in Europe, using our tools and making good money, not only in Naira, in foreign currency. So you don't only take FSC and then the certificate is lying in your study, but you are also equipped to earn from your practice. So is there any other thing I need to tell you? I'm hoping that by now I have convinced you, passionate family life person who wants to see lives transformed, who want to see families live happier, who want to see Nigeria change, because everybody who is causing disruption in Nigeria is from a family. So if we can help to reposition and heal our families, we can transform Nigeria, Africa, and the world at large. So if I'm speaking to you, maybe you are passionate, but you are not convinced you have enough tools to step in and help people in a larger scale. Or you have been doing this work of family life, but you're like, it's ministry work. Am I sure I'm going to earn from it? That's the work I do full time. And if you look at me, you know that, yeah, at least my earnings is taking care of me a bit. So if you're worried about, can I sustain this work and can it help me to earn? I'm going to tell you that FSC will do that for you. And for today, our next training is coming up. We have one running right now. So if that interests you, admin will drop the link. Click on the link, make a minimum deposit to join the next class. And I and my team will see you in class where we are committed to supporting you, helping you all through the way to become one of the best family life practitioners that Africa can be proud of. I hope with these few points of mine, I'll be seeing you in class. Odufa, back to you, please.
Thank you so much, Coach Dima. You said it all really, and I am privileged to be one of the recent alumni of the FSEC, the Family Systems Engineering Certification course, and it was really, really life-changing. I thought I knew a lot about helping families, but when I came here, I felt very ignorant, and I felt really equipped just by the training. And while you were speaking, Coach Dima, one of my other colleagues mentioned in the chat box, and he said that he has now reduced his sessions from 3 hours to just 1 hour with real effect and impact just by taking this certification course. So I'm really sure and I'm certain that people that are here, they will not pass up the opportunities, because now we have known, even from the beginning of this conversation, how important information can be. So we need to educate ourselves so that we can empower ourselves to empower other people. And that's what the certification course does for us. So I encourage everyone in the chat room, all the information that you need has been put in the chat box, and the contact and everything. Do not sleep on it. Do not waste time. Do not say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next year. There is no time for that. Let's just get on and do it now while the fire is still burning. So I encourage you to do it. I myself have been able to help more people more efficiently and more effectively, because I realized that I have the integrity of heart to help people, but I didn't have the skillfulness of hand, and that is what the course gave to me. So I have a heart to do. I have empathy, but I also have the education. I'm using Yeti's terms now to sell the certification course. So come and be educated and be empowered and use that compassionate heart that you have for helping families to do more work for humanity and help more families. Thank you so much. I want to give a big shout out to everyone that joined this conversation from the YouTube people that streaming on the YouTube live, we say a big shout out to you. We see you and we appreciate you. Thank you to everyone that have been here, that have stayed up until this moment. We thank you for being here, and we say that as you go and make use of the knowledge that you have received. You have been educated, go and empower, and do it with a lot of empathy. Thank you so much. Thank you. At this point, we'll say a very big thank you.